Live from the Business Radio X studio in Atlanta, it's time for Organization Conversation, brought to you by Wall Control Storage Systems. Wall Control gives you the storage and organization you crave. Now, here's your host, Richard Grove.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Organization Conversation, brought to you by Wall Control. I am your host, Richard, and I am here with Adam from Lazy Guy DIY and Steph from Uncommon Outpost.
Hey.
Steph is also on the Wall Control team, but so is Adam. Anybody who listens to this regularly or follows us on social media sees both of these faces, if you're watching or listening, or hears these voices and sees their impact on a weekly basis at the least. So we wanted to have everybody on because if you've been following along, there's a new show out called Renovation Hunters, and Adam was a cast member on season 1. Steph and I were involved in season 1, and you can see us on the show in the capacity wearing our Wall Control hats with the Wall Control installations. But Steph has also been asked to be on the cast for season 2. So season 1, I think it's like 2 or 3 episodes are left in the season.
Yep.
And then all of us go off to film the first build of season 2 next week. So thought it would be a good time to have, the kind of Wall Control team on to talk about where, how Wall Control got involved, how we all got involved, kind of what season 1's been like. And as we kind of wrap that up, what we're looking forward to season 2. So, so I guess kind of to get things kicked off, I'll start with you, Adam, I think, because you've been the most involved from the very, very beginning. Kind of take us back, and I'm curious too, because I forget like how we get involved, because we've worked together for years now, and it's just funny like trying to rehash the stories. But how did you first get involved with Renovation Hunters way back before the original pilot, we'll call it? What was the journey like for you in those early days?
So when you're a content creator, you get these messages all the time of, hey, I'm a casting agent and there's a new show we want you to apply for. And I get these like every so often. And I've done some interviews with stuff and like, oh, it's on the History Channel, or oh, it's here or whatever. And so those come up, they come and go. They really don't go anywhere. And then for this one, they're like, no, we want you for the show. You've already got a spot on here. We're shooting a pilot in Missouri. And there wasn't a name at that point yet. But they're like, we're doing actually the whole thing. The message that we got from the people was completely wrong from whatever it was. It was pitched to me as a competition show where I'd have a partner and I'd be redoing a kitchen against other DIYers. And they would be doing something else in the house and there'd be a competition. I was like, I don't really want to do this. And then we found out, no, actually we're renovating like old houses that have to do with like hunting and other stuff there. And I mean, I'm a Virginia boy, so I grew up learning how to hunt, and it just seemed just right. And then we found out that the placeholder name at the time was called Pimp My Deer Camp, which has since been changed to Renovation Hunters. But it was just odd. They're like, you're going, here's the dates. We'll have you come here. A tool company was the one that was bringing us out. They selected us. And then we started talking to a few other people and they were like, oh, hey, yeah, I've got invited to this thing too. And it turned out we knew the entire team that was coming to this. The people that were pointed on, Hal and Chris from Come On Media, they didn't know us. And so they didn't know what they were getting at all. And Kevin, who's the contractor that runs everything, they just, like we were a tight knit like group of like content creators and on Instagram and whatever else, and we all come together and we knew each other and it was cool and ready to go. And so that's the origin story of like how we sort of got there. But
so was it the tool company that put y'all together? Or did Hal? Because Hal is the host of the show, and then Chris is would he be the producer?
Yeah,
I suppose. Come On Media's that's who they're involved with. It's their company, and so that's kind of the core organization, and so that's kind of how I've always known it to be. But it sounds like maybe you guys were put together for them, and that's how they met you guys. They did. Okay, interesting.
They had no idea what they were getting, who they were getting. Yeah. It was Crescent. As far as I know, they reached out and they like chose a team, and that's like Hal and Chris sort of lucked into us, and Kevin, like they had no idea who they were getting. and that was for the pilot at the time, and there had been some swapping around since then. But like the core group of myself, Dane, Rob, and Rachel were all in that first pilot, and so like we were given a room and just not that much information of like, hey, you're gonna get here, you're gonna renovate this old place. It's 100-and-some-year-old farmhouse. This guy who lives next door, he was born in this house, and try to make it cool looking. And they gave me a spot that was like a porch that had been converted, and they're like, we're gonna make this a place to dump gear when we come in. And I was like, well, if it's a hunting show, I know a perfect product that you can put on the walls, and we can control this stuff, and we'll call it a wall control setup. And we started working with Hang Time at the time too, and we got camo panels. We're like, oh well, sorry guys, with the like Hal and Chris, like the only camo we can do is Realtree, who they worked with Realtree, and they knew that whole group, and that was perfect. And I mean, it was sort of a wrap from there. We sent those panels in, we did some custom ones, we installed. The pilot took off with the networks. They loved it. We got picked up by Outdoor Channel, and then Wall Control had to be a part of that going forward, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. It's been awesome. So the was the pilot for Outdoor Channel, or was it just a pilot put on by Crescent for, I guess, to see where it got traction?
So it wasn't necessarily for Outdoor Channel. So Hal and Chris, Hal is on a different show called Drop Zone TV. And it's a hunting show that's on there. And so they basically used this as an add-on to that show because they were hunting out of this location and needed some updates. And then they tacked on, they broke the pilot up into 3 episodes, and then they tacked it on to the end of the show showing, hey, here's the idea of it. But they sold the whole pilot they looked at multiple networks. Outdoor obviously wanted it because it's their people. It makes sense.
Yeah, very good alignment.
So, yeah, it was shopped around, and Outdoor took us, and we love having them.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's such a good fit that I thought that's how it started to begin with. So it was funny because I was like thinking about today's episode, and I was like, I'm looking forward because I know we've talked about this, but this has been like 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah.
Since you were in Missouri with the Wall Control and Hang Time. And I remember that being, super cool. We were very excited about that, and it showed very well. We saw the I'm calling it the pilot because it never actually was aired, I don't think, because some people really liked the name and some people didn't like the name. So the name had to be workshopped. But Renovation Hunters they really nailed it, I think, with that. So, but yeah, how long ago was Missouri when you were filming?
It was, is that 3 years now? Was that 2020 or 2021 is what it was. So, because we started talking and it was April. So yeah, it was 2021. But like, I mean, everybody was in lockdown and everything too. So it was an interesting time. And then like flying and coordinating stuff, and nobody had been out of the house at that point. So it was an interesting venture. And I'm like, yeah, get me out of here, please. Send me to rural Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, yeah, I mean, that was awesome. I remember, I guess Steph and I were introduced to Hal at Workbench Con, where that pilot aired. And it was cool to see it with you guys, and that's how the conversation got started with Wall Control. And coming on a little heavier in season 1, we had a ton of cool setups. One of my favorite part about season 1 and the Wall Control builds is each location kind of features a different application from our typical tool storage. We like in the shed hasn't even been seen yet. So that should air in one of these next couple episodes. So definitely stay tuned for that. But we got to do drop zones, firearm storage, firearm locking, safety product where you just got patent pending status on or rolling out, laundry room, storage and organization, skin and shed, outdoor grilling station. So it's been really cool partnership, and I know we've enjoyed it for sure. So yeah, so season 1 started, before season 1 started, met with Chris and Hal at Workbench Con and kind of talked about our involvement, and they were super receptive to having us like physically be there, really close partnership, installing the products. And so Steph is like our most handy person, that we have that wears a Wall Control hat. And so she was had to be brought along, and she did such a good job that she was asked to come on as a cast member for season 2. So what was it like for you, Steph? Just season 1, and I guess the progression of things as you've kind of gotten, further in with, wall control and also with the Renovation Hunters?
Well, I guess I didn't really know what we were getting into. We had talked at WorkbenchCon over dinner about the kitchen in Hyannis, Nebraska, and kind of. I remember you guys talking about color palettes, but nobody mentioned that house should have been condemned before we got there. And, Richard, you remember, I don't even, Adam, you were probably working so hard you didn't even know that we rolled up and we were about, like an hour and a half or 2 hours away where we were staying from the place?
We had to fly into Denver, and it was like a 4-hour drive to our hotel and then another hour and a half commute from there to the job site, which luckily a spot opened up for you real quick in the cast hotel. I guess. Yeah. It's like up above a bar. It was really cool.
Let's be honest here. So maybe we should describe sort of what the location is like there. So,
yeah, for sure.
So first off, the people of Hyannis, Nebraska were amazing. Like
amazing.
Of 126 people. And so like we saw all of them at some point. And if you went in anywhere and they're like, well, we don't know you, you're clearly part of that TV show. Yeah. And so where we stayed was bar. And where we stayed was hotel above bar. There was no desk. There was no nothing. There was a basket where your keys would get left on the way in the door. And that was it. And there was like one little roadside motel that some other people stayed in too. But you're 2 hours from the nearest anything.
Yeah. The nearest gas station, any kind of restaurant you might recognize. Yeah. So it was definitely a haul. And I'm glad you, Steph, at least had a little bit closer room and board as we got rolling, because there are long days. You guys are up at 6 and work until, on a busy day, you go to dinner and then go back to the job site and work until 10. So it's been, what was that like? What's the grind of that like? I tried to help out as much as I could, but I'm only there 3 or 4 days. And even, maxing out those days, you're still absolutely exhausted by, for my day 2 and day 3. So, yeah.
So like Steph's going to find out here real soon the difference between the volunteer part-time and full-time, but like you're right. Like call time to start is either 6:30. You get meals there, and then you have dinner, and then a lot of times you have to go back, because a lot of these shows you see, they're doing it over weeks at a time. There's like 30, 40 people doing stuff, but really we're doing it in 8 days. There's maybe a dozen of us there. Everybody you see on camera are the people that are working on this stuff. We have companies that come in, like you guys with wall control would come in and do like painting and some of the stuff that just would really bog down the flow. And it's such a huge lift, but like everybody.
There's no night crew.
No,
that comes in and works in between.
No one that comes back in there, and you come back, you fall asleep and they wake up, and then all of a sudden it's time to go again. But like everybody had a breaking point at some point where like you're just mentally drained. And I remember at one point in Nebraska, I'm just like sitting on the floor and trying to read a tape measure, and it was not happening. And I'm like trying to make a cut on something, and I was in Rob from Ginger Woodworks is like, bro, he's like, just get up a second, go somewhere, go do this and come back. And like everybody had one of those days, and Steph, you're gonna have one of those days too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I selfishly hope I'm there for it, Steph, and I'll try. I'll do what I can to help. But yeah,
I'll tag you in, and you can fill in for me.
Good. I'll be like, I'll read the tape measure. You let me take that. So, So what are you? I guess, it is daunting, honestly, like to think about it. Are you? What percentage of you are you nervous, excited? Where do you fall, Steph? On the we're here, like you guys, you're leaving in 2 or 3 days to head out there. So what are your biggest excitements and the things you're kind of the most anxious about?
Well, I'm kind of I'm an over planner. So I always, like almost doomsday prepper, not quite that level, maybe, but, I don't like to be places where I don't have the things I need. So I try to get all of my anxiety out beforehand. So I'll just be showing up to the builds where we don't sleep for 10 days, having not already slept for 10 days because I was trying to do 2 weeks of work in 3 days. But yeah, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. When I first read the sheet and saw that Christy and I are kind of rebuilding half the house ourselves in 3 days, I was a little nervous about that. But there's a plan, and all you have to do is follow instructions, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and your car's already packed with the wall control, so that's good.
Yeah, Richard made sure the wall control all got in the car first, so I get to pack my other stuff around it.
Well, clothes you can just slip right in the cracks between the boxes, so that's easy. But yeah,
I can tell you my reaction of the sheet was like, man, we're gonna be done early on this. There's not that much to do. So it's all in perspective of because when you start seeing like the workload of stuff, like Nebraska was the biggest project we'll ever do out of any of the places, I'm sure, unless they like give us like an entire town to do like in 10 days. But like that was the most daunting thing ever with like foundation stuff, a new deck, and it was so much. And this one, it's a 800 square foot cabin. So there's only so much that can be done in that space and outside too. So your stress will go away once we get in the groove there, for sure.
Yeah. Once I'm there, I'll be fine. Cause then it's the not knowing what you're getting into that is, exciting and a little scary. But once you get there and you're like, oh, now this is what I'm dealing with, then you can prepare.
Yeah, and I think
solve problems.
I forget who said it or who coined it, but it's something like you need to scare yourself once a day or something like that. Like if you're not scared or nervous, then you're not really pushing it. And so
I'm crushing that.
Yeah, exactly. You're killing it. So that's exactly where you want to be. So yeah, I guess so. We're kind of hopping around, but going back to season 1, Adam or Steph, is there anything from season 1 that you or the team are you're taking a lot of lessons and taking them to season 2, but is there anything big that like mindset or focus that you feel like will benefit you greatly in season 2 that you learned from season 1, or something that you worried about in season 1 that you're not even going to think about in season 2 because it never came into play?
I mean, I can give a little advice and sort of how I look at it, especially Steph, for you coming in. I mean, to me, I've got 3 kids. We wake up multiple times a night because I got young kids, are up early getting people started. Like this is sort of a vacation for me too, because I get regular meals. I'm going to be sleeping like the same time, hopefully uninterrupted. There's no trains like there were in Nebraska, like blaring through like every half hour. So like this is, despite the physical work, it's restful in that I get to sit there, I get to work on something uninterrupted that I love doing. And so that's sort of how I go in mindset wise. Like, even though like people get frustrated and there's problems that come up, like it's I wouldn't say better, but it's different. It's a different way to sort of reflect and be able to like get in the groove on something. And it relaxes me from what a normal day to day would be. So like, that's what I'd say. The same thing. I know that you have a hectic, chaotic, everything. This breaks. You have to fix this. The boiler's down and it needs this or whatever.
The boiler.
Yeah. So like, you don't have to go. It's like, even though it's unpredictable what's going to happen, it is predictable. Like, you have a goal, you sit there, you have so many people around you to support you that it's like you'll get in your groove, and it's a vacation. Think of it as a vacation, a fun vacation. I get that
with like the escape bit too. And like, so I've got a young kid, and I saw a meme. This is exactly like what it was. Basically, the kid asked the parent, "What's it like to have a kid?" And the parent said they interrupted them every 11 seconds until they cried. And like, that's really what it's like. Just being able to focus on one job, or, a cluster of jobs, but the same task, and it being your duty to like totally focus on that it's like the freedom and the discipline of that. So yeah, that makes sense to me for sure. What about you, Steph? Season 1 stuff rolling into season 2, things,
Well, season 2 is definitely a different ball game for me because I have obligations and things I'm responsible for. Um, season 1, we just kind of showed up and we're like, hey, does anyone want help? So anything we did was awesome.
Right.
And there's no letting anybody down because there was no expectations. So I'm excited to have some projects that I can take ownership of and really, put some forethought into it. And so I'm excited about that. The whole process itself, being on the job sites and stuff, reminds me a lot of I used to do like Habitat for Humanity builds for like a week long when I was a teenager with my dad. And it reminds me a lot of that because you have a whole bunch of people with different levels of experience. Everybody knows something. And you're trying to build a house in a week or fix a house in a week. And, you're all living in the same place. It's like camp for adults, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that's a good way of looking at it for sure.
And it's nice when things break or don't go as planned because you don't have to go to YouTube, and you can't because there's no internet. But, there are people there who know things that can fix them on the spot.
Yeah. The other thing I was just thinking too, speaking of things breaking, and it's kind of, it sucks because it happens, but that also makes for good television. So, the silver lining of things not going well is that it'll probably get turned into a storyline that's engaging. So I don't know. That's positive. Yeah. So Adam, well, Steph as well, since you're on all the calls, I know there's a lot that can't be talked about, but is there anything different happened in season 2 than what has happened in season 1, as far as kind of like the flow of things or goals of the show, anything like that can be discussed that people could look for if they had been watching season 1, or it be kind of a wash, rinse, and a repeat from the success of season 1.
Well, I think the big thing is that you always want to go bigger and better every season. You want to do something a little bit more. So there's the pressure of that. Okay, so we did this in this house and that one and so forth. So you don't want to repeat the same thing over and over, or people aren't going to be interested. So I think having the ability to sort of step up and do something new, there is a lot of pressure to that. But I think we have a collective group that can come up with new ideas, new applications of stuff, how to use wall control differently. We've already done that on this first one. I think that's just the big thing. You try to go for the next one and the next one, and there's pressure, but I think we can handle it for now until season 22 maybe, and then see what happens.
Exactly.
Then we're doing whole towns.
Exactly. Then you might have your night shift that comes in, and the fairies come through at night and take care of things. But yeah, I mean, I know we're excited about this first build, and it's just funny because you're like a year delayed. You're literally like a year delayed of being able to show and talk about the things you're really excited about now. So we've definitely got some cool wall control installs lined up for next week, and just can't wait till we can kind of start showing some of that stuff, and especially when it airs. The other thing that's been really cool is just the families you get to meet along the way, and all the different stories that Hal and Chris have picked and Kevin have picked to kind of focus on. They get, like the causes they're always fantastic, but it's like they're starting to go in more unique directions that I feel like touch different people and the challenges they've had throughout their life. So it's not just, the hunting cabin that needs to be repaired so people can go hunting again, but it brings the family in and the challenges that they face. So I don't know much at all about season 2 aside from this first build, but just from what I've heard about the family that will be helping out, it's pretty cool and pretty inspiring, and definitely gets me motivated to go there, and I'm sure you guys even more so, just because you're in it on a weekly basis, planning and getting things ready to go. So is there anything particularly okay, do you know what the next builds will be after this first build, or no?
I don't. Adam might.
I know what one of them is.
I don't know what to ask sometimes, because I don't want to, if I'm not allowed to know or you're not allowed to talk about it, definitely say so.
So there's only one that's set up right now. The next one that they've announced to limited people. So I know what it is. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be something different than we've ever done before. But the third one I don't know is yet. So Stephanie, you may find out soon. I don't know if I'm even supposed to know. I think they mentioned it, but
Adam is the
I know
reason
what state it's in, state, and not like U.S. state, but I don't know what state the property is in or what kind of property it
And
is.
if you were watching, Adam just disappeared. So the Outdoor Channel or Hal or somebody just hit a button and he fell through the floor. So
It happens sometimes.
exactly. So that's kind of, you just roll with it and see how it goes. So yeah, so I'm sure he's going to come back. So Steph, it's funny because me and Steph are in the same building, just
We are.
a couple offices down. So what all do you have left to do before you can hit the road? As far as planning for Renovation Hunters go, or do you have it all?
Like planning, or like what do I need to do in the next 36 hours?
What do you? Yeah, let's see. What does Steph have to do in the next 36 hours from planning? But you're going to make me feel bad with, I'm sure, the list of wall control things. And I've tried to take as much off your plate as possible. We don't need end of month. We don't need, so.
Yeah. No, I just, you know, the normal laundry pack. I'm still trying to find all my tools because I moved since last season, and I've just been kind of making do with random things that I can find. And yeah, I just need to get everything situated, put it in the car, you know, normal traveling stuff.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's a big thing too, of like trying to, when you do a show like this too, you have brands that provide products and things and different tools and stuff. And also, do you want to bring anything of your own stuff? And I know I'm personally going to be making furniture while I'm there. So there's tools that I want to have with me that are going to make life easier. I mean, like I said, we have great sponsors and stuff, but there's things that that this is what I'm going to need here. Do you really want to bring that with you? Especially if you're driving in, it's fine. You're definitely not going to fly with like a Festool domino or something along those lines. So yeah, it gets a little difficult to figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
And
the
like,
truck packed up, Adam?
I'm pretty much packed up. The problem is also that we've moved as well. So I have stuff in 2 different places and packed up everywhere. So it's like, okay, I've got to I can't just run and grab stuff before I go out the door. So it's like, do you go to the storage unit? Do you go to what's left at the shop here? Do you go there at the other house? So yeah,
that's exactly what I've been trying to do. And I have like toolboxes, but I have a bunch of like those stacking toolboxes, which I'm not going to bring all of them. So I'm trying to empty them out and consolidate them because somebody filled my entire car with wall controls. So I can't fit all of them in there. So I need to make it.
Well, at least we're trying today. So we have tomorrow.
Yeah.
We need the next to air anything up. So yeah, we've definitely done that and can do that again. And we'll be sending stuff to y'all's Airbnb as well. So yeah. Well, cool. All right. So the last little bit, and again, I should have probably asked you this stuff before we came on because I don't know what can be said or can't be said, but have there been any results from Outdoor Channel or anything along the lines from kind of the higher ups there as to, you know, how the first season's going? Clearly, you know, a second season was put into motion pretty early on. So obviously they're excited about it. Just curious if there's any feedback from, you know, from the network or from the, you know, from the audience out there. I know I see on social media, you know, a lot of activity just on my own small channel. Adam runs wall control, so I'm sure he's seeing things as well. And likewise with you, Steph, but didn't know if you guys had any interesting insights into kind of how that's going.
I know a little bit, and I haven't seen anything concrete, but it sounds like that it's one of the biggest shows that they've had on Outdoor Channel. And obviously they have a lot of special interest things on there too, hunting specific. So it's very different that they have a show that is like this. But it seems like they've gotten a ton of positive feedback. It's been nothing but great stuff. And it's like, hey, these are 2 of my favorite things. It is a renovating, working on houses, very blue collar stuff, and hunting like focus as well. Like you can't go wrong there. So, I mean, we nailed the audience on this. And obviously the network is very happy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great fit for wall control. As far as like you said, as far as demo goes, it's pretty ideal. You got, if you're watching an outdoor renovation show, then you have hobbies and you got stuff you need to store. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. So yeah, the fits really well for us, and I'm glad to hear it. I mean, it's been fun to watch. Just, you know, obviously it's fun with my wall control hat on, but I think it's just a good show anyways. That's the feedback I've gotten from my family and friends that have been watching it. So it's exciting. really excited to get season 2 kicked off here. Anything else, Steph or Adam, you guys want to add to anything or any question I didn't ask that doesn't touch on something that you might want to bring up before we wrap it up and head on up to the next build?
I would say the biggest thing is make sure you're following along on stories for everybody that's part. Either you can see stuff on either Wall Control. I know Stephanie and my own Renovation Hunters. So on Instagram, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff on stories while we're on location. Not as much in the feed post because the show is also airing at the same time. We don't want to sort of cross streams of promoting what's happening there and then what's from what has previously been recorded and then what is happening right then. So check out Instagram stories. We'll see a ton of cool stuff, and everybody on the team will just continue to share things. You'll see some things that you won't catch on the show because there's so much personality that happens. Like Christy always seems to find something weird, like some animal of some sort, like a reindeer bar to jump on, or there's a little bit of everything that happens after hours when we're all delusional, and it's always fun to watch.
That's true.
Well, cool. Well, yeah.
Karaoke.
Yeah.
I know. That's what I need to do tonight. I have to find the karaoke wire. Because
do you have one of those like big plastic turtle things that go on the top of cars for like
a turtle top? Like from the 90s?
Uh-huh.
No. Should I?
We could paint it up or put Wall Control and Renovation Hunters on it. That could be funny. It's like the old school version of like Kevin's trailer.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That everyone put their chairs in to go to the beach.
Exactly. That thing will hold a lot. That massive cubic footage there. So
I'll look on Craigslist on my 400-mile trip and see if I can find one I can scoop up on the way.
One of those cloth ones that just sits on the roof. That's what I use, and you can pick those up anywhere. They're cheap. That way they fold up when you're done. You don't have a giant plastic turtle shell on your roof.
No, I want the authentic 90s one.
Perfect.
And I'm gonna like pinstripe it and paint Wall Control all over it.
Exactly.
Put slots and dots all over it.
I think that would make you get a lot. You could put like some sort of hashtag on there and see if people notice you going down the road.
I do not. I probably don't need anybody else noticing me going down the road.
Yeah. How's my driving? Hashtag whatever. Well, cool. Well, yeah. So if you're listening, Renovation Hunters airs Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Sundays at 2:30 p.m. I think there's like a 4 a.m. airing on Saturdays. I'm not sure about that one, but just you could look up all the information on Outdoor Channel. Just search Renovation Hunters. Obviously, you'll find it. We also have tried to build a little bit of a resource on our website, so wallcontrol.com/Renovation Hunters. You can follow along with everybody here, the Wall Control team. It's got links to the socials of how Renovation Hunters, the actual show, as well as kind of a quick link to to see what channels it's on in your area. So trying to make it as easy as possible, but there's a lot of different ways to find out how to watch. So yeah, so thanks for coming on, guys, and we will see you next week. Looking forward to kicking off season 2, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
See you.
Thank you for joining us. Organization Conversation is brought to you by Wall Control, a family-owned and operated producer of best-in-class wall-mounted organizers for your home or business, made right here in the USA. To learn more, go to wallcontrol.com.